journal articles, academic books, and conference presentations, particularly in the area of community service and leadership, including roles in civic organizations and faith-based youth groups. He is passionate about languages and continues to champion the advancement of African languages in education and scholarly discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Chikota to the podium.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, colleagues. I think it's a privilege for me and also this position because nobody knew beforehand what I was going to say. So even the framework that I'm going to follow is dependent on the speaker. I was surprised about the bio. I thought it would be short, and of course, I wanted it to be limited so that it doesn't include certain things which will put me in trouble. Anyway, I'm already in trouble because some few years order, this is what I'm going to present. So I realized in the morning that I was supposed to have spoken on ancestral communication, and I was never thought to be a school-going boy until I escaped the soldiers who passed on some years immediately after the war in Zim, where we fled to escape being hunted by South African police. So when I was a child, I sat at the feet of my grandmother and she told me about a drum. And the drum is what we call in Venda Ngomarungundu. It's a sacred drum of the Venda people. She will lean close and whisper that this was not ordinary drum, my son, when Ngomanungudu was beaten. Now, I've done this presentation somewhere else, and when I was doing the presentation, callers wanted to put me in the corner. What was the skin of the drum? What were they using to beat? And it said, enemies who had it will fall, enemies who had it will fall into a deep sleep, and they become. Now, to us children, this story was both frightening and fascinating. And it was a reminder that the ancestor walked with us. The power could rest in something simple, created by 6 people. I don't know why the number is 6, and the drum is there. And I'm not going to concentrate on the drum. You will read from some of the things from the presentation because I'm timed out for 20 minutes. So if you go through, I've tried to capture what Ngomarungundu is all about. There are a lot of people who have written about Ngomarungundu, this drum. And me being one of them, and I've produced 2 books about Ngomarungundu. I was able to produce another one. So, this is what is important about what I've said about my grandma. My grandmother's voice was the authority. At the time when I was with her, I don't know how old she was, but I know she was born around 1895. And I stayed with her in exile from 1966 to 1970. And I left her there. I know she had no education. And that's why I said she had no book in hand and no written proof. But she had lived an experience which she had carried in the family, which made her story true. And because of that, I concluded, and based on what she said, that authority in the story was real. And the story of Ngomarungundu could be corroborated. It could be somewhere in the museum. When she was telling us the story, and this is what she said, if we forget these stories about Ngomarungundu, the story of Ngomarungundu will be silent forever. And if we do not preserve it, and if we do not retell it, then the power of our heritage will be lost to silence. Now, Ngomarungundu, among other Venda artifacts, has served as my source of history. Now, I know when I was doing history at the University of UNISA, there was this professor who was teaching us history in honors history, and he said to us, "What do you want to do with history?" And he was serious. Then we could not answer because if we say we wanted to know the truth, in those years, 1989, 1990, it was going to be a problem. So, Ngomarungundu has served as my source of history. It has inspired us, it has inspired me. But there's this other history, the Rankin approach, or the Trevor Noah, which we usually call the notorious claim, where they talk about history as written records and the history as not meant for black people. But there are those who agree with me, like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who says that history is not only what is inscribed in books or preserved in archives. He says history also lives on the lips of a people. By continually engaging with the story of Ngomarungundu, we are continuing to preserve history, and we are continuing to speak or tell the tales and talks of our elders as per Z.K. Matthews. Now, the challenge is what happens when we privilege written memory at the expense of oral voices. In this case, the story of Ngomarungundu. Because with the story of Ngomarungundu, it helps us to do three things. It helps us gather, preserve, and interpret the voices and memory of the Venda people. You see, as we go down, without written records, without books specifically written, we only have citation here and there about Ngomarungundu. In the book that I have written is full of citations. A lot of pages dedicated to what Ngomarungundu is all about. But The story of Ngomarungundu helps Venda people to understand their identity and construct their past. When we talk about Ngomarungundu, we also talk about the origin of the Venda people. They originated in Ethiopia. When the Venda people were coming to the south, there were also those who were having a similar tool like Ngomarungundu, who were going to the east. And they refer to it as the Ark of the Covenant. Now, with Ngomarungundu, we're able to locate exactly on the map, which I don't think you'll be able to see because I don't have a pointer here with me, around Dongora, somewhere around Kush, the two powerful instruments originated. One is Ngomarungundu, and the other one is the Ark of the Covenant. Now, when narrating the story of Ngomarungundu, we know that the king there during that time was Mambiri, who is referred as the totem king from Ethiopia, the father of Tobela, who is the king of both the Venda people and the Pedi people of Limpopo. Now, it helps us to construct the past. Now, I've put there a quote. What do you see there as the door? It is not actually a door. It's the map. The map was engraved in that door. Now, when we attempt to follow, we'll be able to get the map. In the University of Pretoria, what is referred to the Mapunguwe Museum, we couldn't trace where the door is, but we were able to get the picture. Now, I was fascinated. Across the Venda people. With the Ngomarungundu, which they refer in their language, Metengula, and in Zimbabwe and Masingo. Interesting story. The record of Ernaf, all the other writers who followed, talked about the arrival of the Venda people around 1700. Writers who spoke about the drum in Chendeuru, which is a photo of the two drums was taken, and another photo of the ancient drum, the one below the two drums that are visible, was also taken. Now one asks, written history, although we know in history we don't deal with actually timelines, we deal with plausible dates. There is a lot of contradiction in written records, but not in the story of Ngomarungundu. Now, to the Venda, their history, their kingships, the wars they fought, and the same with Desmond Tutu, who talked about how we should encourage go together. Yeah, I'm sorry, it has also reminded me that my time is up. Yeah, it means the whole history is going down. And memories fade if not preserved. We are telling about the story of Marungudu today. It is a key to unlock the wisdom of a people. The story of Marungudu is not just a story. To have inclusive cultural memory. Thank you, Program Director.
History that actually you have spoken quite a mouthful. Drum. What happened to this particular drum? Is it one of those artifacts that were, but nonetheless, even though the physical form of Ngomalungundi, is not there, it is still there in the memory of the people. Ke boletšinyana le Matefo, ke boletšinyana le seboledi sa rena Elia ona mpotša gore o Setebele se ga sa gola ka sona, o gotše ka Sepedi, o goletše ga koko mo e leng gore go bolelwa Sepedi. So it's very complicated, like I said yesterday for those who were here. Northern Ndebele identity is a very complex identity. There are people who call themselves Madebele, and yet they don't speak the language. So the language does not equal Butebele. Among some, it's very important, you know. The language is very important to them, but among others, that is not important. The important thing is the history, where they come from. That is the essence of the Ndebelenes. But let me not waste time. And Kere Masemola Martina Tefu, obelego ka di 10 ja May 1960. Gamutapo ko Mankweng. Ki mabelegetšwe gona ko Mankweng ga Mothapo. And ki ngaka manio ki ngaka e leng gore tlhomphegile kudu, a highly respected traditional healer. Gape ke sereti in Nguni languages we say imbongi. Gape wa ngwala ke mongwadi, and ebile she's a dedicated community worker. O shuma mo setšhabeng ke modiredi wa setšhaba. Setšo sa gage o medu ya gage e kudu from a young age. Ke ntho e leng gore go dile ka yona tabe ya ye. She's deeply on medu ya gage e mo setšong. Ga Polokwane ga bo Maria, msadi wa dithetho. Go tloga pro Magadangele Secondary School. Magadangele is one of the Longwala. Ashumisha Linjo, that is her voice, to preserve and celebrate the values of the Bapedi people. Her community work reflects a deep commitment to cultural education. Ke motho e leng gore o tloga a tišitše ka mo tša culture, ka mo tša setšo, le tša thuto, and le tša spiritual tša bongaka. So yeah, di tlo tla tšona tšeo o swantšute le dilo tša gago ka moka go etla ke eno mma ka gore o tlo re botša ka tšona dilo tšeo. O nyetšwe ke the late Mukibelo William Tefu ka go hloka mahlatse o fetile. O fetile mo lefaseng le o fetetše go lefase lela la ka kua. And yena le molekane wa gagwe ba thomile ba dula ko Manyapye village gona mo ga Mashashane pele ba tloga ba ya Makwea kwa ga Moletši mo e leng gore o tswela pele go phela gona and ebile o tloga a tšea karolo mo setšhabeng mo so a tle mo staging a re mo phaphatheleng matsogo.
Thobela ba ge shi thobela ka heritage ye botse nka re thobela ba ge shu na ke nna Martina se moletefu motseng wa ga Makwea ba ge shu nna ke berege ka mo ga Mothapo hara mogale koko ke ngwana kganyago ra gole ke mabonte ke bele gata wa ke ba gara mogale a butlo ba go ba boga ba shukina ba ile ka la batho ba fetla bothata batho ba fetla more wa koko ke ngwana kganyago a masolo ka sa gona botlhalo ga boshita betsa ba sepepele ba re ke ba ga khobela tlong motlane ba re le ga e bodile ya lewa malesela o tlile maabane o bushitse baratho ba rena nna ke morodi ya Paulo a Mabaso ba re mogale a tlhatlhele o tlile khele maena ke ra maita bo lesetja ke kwana sa dia balopi a mphela tete kwana ya matlhaji ke ngwana ra mogale o tswa ka mo ga Mothapo ga khoshi Mothapo ke namile ke khumane lenyalo ba geshu tšetša dikolo tše ka nkare ke ya le tšwela mmereko wa ka o emetše mo ba tlo nkgatha ka nako ba re nako a ije bogobe ka khumana lenyalo ka mo Manyapye ka mo ke khumana lenyalo ke nyala ke William Mokibelo Tefu ngwana wa ngwana Motlanthi Madiboka re ke boka di swana re ke Motlanthi ya diboba ha re ke paletše diboba ke rekisha go boputšwana ka morago re bola ke tlala nka re khotso ka total monna ka 81 ra thuthela ka mo Moletši a Mabokanyane ra khumana madulo ke ile Moletši ke na le bana ba babedi ba baninyana modimo a fitla mpha 6 ya ba 8 4 boys 4 girls ke ra Moletši a Mabokanyane ga ntlhoma marumo ga khošiso le kgabo a boraro ga ba mogoba a kgoboketša ba tlhaloga yena nna ke reta khoši bile ke dila khoši dipheta ga le bona ba mošate ba apere dipheta tše ke dia ke matsogo a kakwe bageshu na ke namile ka thoma mmereko no wa tlatela ke badimo ba ntshwenya ba nthomile ke balawane ga ba re tšea mekolwana le kgebetse le ya go dušetša ka katineng bageshu nna gape namile dilo tše di ruruga tše bošego ke namile ke ka ba o ka ska ba wa bula matsogo aka ke ile ke na le bana ba babedi ka bolela le balapa monna re ke lapile ka bolela ke dutše ke tshwere bana ka matsogo mosadi yena ka fetša ka fitlha gae he ka bona motlholo o ke motlholo nna ka jwa ka mapulaneng ka ba ka wela ko mapulane ke ile ka go thwasa mara ga ka fitlha ka wela le nkwile ba geshu ka boya ba geshu mola ke boyange modimo a nampha 6 ya bana ya ba 80 ke ntse ke ikopanya le kgoši ka mošate kgoši a re nya ka ntša Sesotho diaparo ke na le legabe ke na le bose ke na le lekope ga ebe ke tšea leeto ke ya bongaka ke be ke taba ke le kope ga ebe ke sa le ka moga Mothapo be ba re tšea ka pula disane re namile re yo kgobokana ka mošate re itswa basojana e sa tlhae ba gona botho ba basola a epele a bitše pula ba ka shuga re ya kwa ro bitša pula re epela košere malepele dia pula ilepelele pula ya borare ikana na ratsoga re gata minula pula ilepelele ga re boya ba gešo pula e tswalela motlhaela rena re se tšhure se ba selo re se tšhure ba le matswele be re di re tlosa mabetla ba re mamina re apere pentšhiela ya reke re mo dinokeng ya maotwana ya go dia ka lešela ya ba waifera ne re apara pula ba waifera le masamping wa tseba nka se go bona o ikwapile ka reng nkemele ke boela morago ke a tšika ke boela morago he di lo madere ke ba gešo ge ke tlogile ke tsene ka moga ke sepela nna ke tsamaya melato ape na weekendeng o lengwe ke ya ke mo ke fihla ka moga dikgale ke hwetša kgoši dikgale a sena moreti ke re ewe ka re ke bogalane a makhafula mokhondo la nyofu ga ke re ke ya lebelela ke re ka re ke mašao a kolwana ba re wa botlhantše o tlhebatebele ba re le maune a ntlo tša go swa ga e le direto ke rwele go tshega a re go tšimolola ka matches nna ke re ke matches ka gaka nna ka gaka ke ya tshega mollo a tuka ra tšea sešo ra sulakela mo magaleng ra tsoga ra ngwatlhela moagišane ya go le ba gešo sekela mpone ke jalo ke lema gore ke tlatše di le ba gešo sekela mpone ke jalo ke lema gore ke tlatše di saka ka dinawa ka moseng wa ka sefa ka dia ka apea motogo ba gešo nna ke dinama ke ya iya ka go etela ka kalela ke loala bošego ke ela dithito le ka nyile ke swere morogo o moswashule mola a ke tlo sefa dijo tša sekgowa ke batla di tšwela ba tladitše di-fish whale e namile ke ela dithito ke phela Sesotho le go nyile tlhaka tša ka kua gae di nemagotšane le go nyile tlhaka tša ka kua gae di nemagotšane a ke re bašolo o tla hwetša o ka re o robetšile ngwanenyana a tswelela go ema ba gešo nna ke rata balwetši ba ka ba fodiša ke lesego e se tšhiwa first clare a ke re go sola ka kua ka nama ka solela molwetši ka tamati nna le molwetši re ya poleke e tee ene ra robala ntlo e tee a ba kua ka sponge ka ba kua ka lenterase motho ola ka shera ka re ya o ya bere nna ka no ka re le maketšwa ke ya gafa ke le tlhagatša sola di ore gola di humola la thuta ba ba re se le ya ngogola a ke re wa kwa mosadi ba re mosadi a nyakiwe o ta mutwa ba gešo ka lelebe ba gešo godimo ga dilo tše ke ba go tšona ke leboga ngwane o mongwe wa gešo wa pele e tšhweu he Julia ke hwa le wena haya ke hwa le we ae haya ke hwa le wena ba gešo ka re lenkwele a kere dilo tše ke dilo tše ka mošiba ba ke tšwile mo ntošikgo ba re ke eng ntho tiktok nna ke tsamaya le ba baka ke mo tiktoko ka mošubaba ka heritage le kgoši moloto ga mpona o le o thinya le ka khuru wa ka re a re wa ka re my person ke kgopela o dire le phetse bana ba gešo le nthekele phetanyana itite batho Stevie Topo e suile ke kgone go nyaka Korea ya go ke dio kgopela nna ke ya namile Lempone ba gešo metsotso ya ka e fedile a beng ke lape batho ba ile kerekeng le kwana ka moreti ba re ba ela baruti tlogelang go ela baruti tsa malo rapela ra kwana le ena moruti bana jare je ke jaka je enal le ka skela la khona taba ya thapelo le mpete aua mpete o sentse setšhaba o phumile metse ya batho le eng kwana ke reng ene nke le re ka lenyetšo le belege bana ka lapeng se ke le tšea ngwana ka next door o tla re o diliba ka sepetlela o dia o tlhola jalo nna ke dioponyelo kare a kere o ka se belege tlo nku o robetse lekase mara ka re le tšwa ka next door o bonang o bona o tla go tlhabja mokgoši o tla go tlhabja mo wa go tsoša bašwi ba memiwa ke ba tšwa botlhe ba hallelujah hallelujah hallelujah.
Thank you so much, Ke a leboga Ma Tefu, for tšohle tše e leng gore o re file tšona, o tloga re fepile kudu ka maatla. Ba gešo ke kgopela gore re feng Ma Tefu matsogo. A re mo feng matsogo. We have learned so much. We have learned so much this morning about traditional food, traditional pedi, and Ndebele food such as sekgoto, seraulele, dikgobe. We've also learned about mutlotlo, a sieve that was used when making traditional. So that's traditional. So that's, I learned so much. We've also learned about traditional healing. The fact that, the doctor, doesn't sleep separately from the patient. The patient is kind of treated as part of the family, something that is actually lost in Western medicine, because when you are a patient, you are a subject. You are a patient, they don't even care about whatever is going on around you. They are simply concerned about the condition that you have. Sometimes even doctors don't greet you. They're just there to look at your case. So, Dr. Chikota, please join us on stage. Because Renali Imponyana ya go le leboga for this morning. It's just a small token of appreciation. How's that? Take it off. Yeah. Very exciting. Very exciting, very entertaining. Thank you so much. Another round of applause, please. Hey, nago e tloga e re. You know how artists are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, before we go to the next session, I have, I'm Sikiba Gibalkwati, and I've been chairing this session. So I'm introducing myself in concluding. Now for announcements. Firstly, I want to remind the presenters, I must remind the presenters to submit their papers and at least 2 oral interviews in physical form if it's available, but it's also acceptable to submit it in digital form. Why do we require not just the paper, but also your oral interviews? We are engaged in the process of decolonizing the archive, right? So we hope that with these interviews, we can begin a collection that will become publicly accessible in the National Archives so that we can leave something for posterity. Young researchers who come would have these primary sources, these interviews that they can use to analyze and write papers that are really interesting, that are decolonial in orientation. So it's primarily for that we have started this process of gathering, using OHASA to gather these primary sources. It's starting this year. The second announcement, we will have a combined session rather than 2 parallel sessions. Because we have 5 speakers, a total of 5 speakers. So we don't have a breakaway group. They're going to combine, the next session is going to run here. And we have 2 chairs. They will have to decide whether they co-chair or maybe one actually takes over. We have Ms. M. Nkwe and Mr. Maila Kola. I don't know if either is available. You are here, Ms. Nkwe. I don't see Maila. So, Ms. Nkwe, you'll take over after me. And because there's no break, and actually take over. Thank you so much. So my part has come to an end. Thank you very much. I forgot one last announcement. So today being the last day of the academic part of the OHASA program, by the way, we have the excursion tomorrow, right? So this thing is still going on even tomorrow. But the academic part is coming to an end this afternoon. We are going to have an AGM. I think it's at 20 to 4. It's at 20 to 4. We would like to invite everyone. It will be here. The AGM will be held here in this venue. Members and non-members, please come to the AGM. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tobela. I'm just going to introduce them.
Who's the first one?
Is the one card is this one?
This one.
And then the second one is Dr.
Koldi is
Guma.
also-
She's number 3.
This one is
Much. The first one is number 2 is Guma. Okay, number 3.
Guma.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
Number 2.
Okay, great.
And then the
how
third one is Mabelani.
Mabelani.
Number 3.
Assist here.
Yeah, Mabelani.
He's already
Yeah,
online. Online.
So should we start with him?
No, I don't know. You decide.
No, you decide.
Okay, but Mr. Gogo, somebody's going to help me with the connectivity, right? What am I supposed to do?
You don't have to do anything from here. I can actually hear you as you're speaking now.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm fine.
I don't see Mabelani's bio.
Oh, shouldn't I just
Yeah.
introduce them as they
And then
are?
ask them to introduce them.
Figure ekhulumela abafazi under this sub theme, and our first presenter is Dr. Daniel Rankadi Musako, who will be presenting to us a paper around amplifying marginalized narratives through women's voices and textile designs in the African continent, a focus on South Africa. Dr. Musako will just give you, I know he won't give you his background, but yeah, he is one of the talented artists in the department, and the university recently been appointed as the head of department. I'm only just going to introduce him because I know he won't. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I just need to, I know where I come from, protocol has got to be so much observed, otherwise you'll lose your job. But I just need to say to all the dignitaries in here, and I serve on the same protocol that has been presented by the previous speakers. And thank you very much, Ma'am Mashia, for the introduction. Okay, I am going to be talking faster than usual. I'm going to look into the way textile has been used in order to amplify the women voices, the voices that has not been emanated before, but they are only visualized and seen. So I just need to say I'm going to talk about what is called living heritage. Now this presentation looks into the way textile has been used either as an oral documentation that translates into visual documentation. So each and every one of us here has got a significance of a textile garment. The textile comes from a loom, there's a wrap and a wreath, that means it goes to a loom and then it comes up like that. So currently for the mass production, the machine does that faster, so we get different textiles. But there are those specific individuals who feel that they want to wear a textile that has been designed by the particular artist. So that's is for isolated cases. Much more when we go and buy the Kosa wear, as in because you see it on the screen, it's not just bought from Arabastad, but it's bought from a certain credible producer. So it's said that the textile is not produced locally, but in 4 days, the textile was done by hand, not through a machine. By hand, I'm referring to a loom, whereby the spinner spins and it goes through a loom. So I just need to say, weaving, as we know it now, has got a historical significance. It emerges as a powerful metaphor for leadership. So we do associate the loom with women, because it's the women who sit on the loom, but we do associate the wool crafting as a man's job to craft the wool, and it's been spun into a wool. So in that very way, we have a women leadership. That means they've got a particular way of illustrating creativity. And their very creativity has got a social characterization, changing the society for economic empowerment. But over and above, it's got a visual narrative. That very visual narrative, it can only be translated into voice if someone asks, where is your garment from? And then the wearer of the garment will proudly say, this is Umbalpa from the Xhosa area. It's got this significance and it's got this very meaning. So you get an oral history from the garment per narrator of the wearer. Otherwise you may do a history. So all these garments that come from the Eastern Cape area, Western Cape area, they've got a particular meaning. They are not just worn, they are worn for certain occasions. There's colors, significance in them as well. But we just see them as garments. So I just need to say, all these materials, they've got a choice. We don't just choose choices. That's why when you choose garments from your closet today, you choose garments per choice in order to emanate the characterization that you are. So whatever you wear is also characterized of what mood you are in that very day. You do know that there's certain garments that are worn when people go to certain churches, and those are significant to the church. There are those that are worn by those who have been bereaved. They've got certain significances. And there are those that are worn when they go to imigiti, as in Xhosa people go, and they wouldn't want to wear the same garment that they wore differently, but they do different choices of garments and mix them up, especially the headgears. Those are the very oral history that you don't see, but you see them visually. For as long as you interact with the person who's wearing the garment, you get the oral history thereof. So I just need to go into certain textiles. This is a textile that comes from Central Africa. Now, when we look at a textile from Central Africa, it's got certain motifs on them. What we see there, we see a leaf, which is more of a leaf motif. And what is the significance of leaf motif? Is new life, is life, it brings that. So we multiply them by patterning that. It's just that this garment that you see on the screen has been done through a machine, and then of course from the Asian side, in order to mass produce. But in a way, when the person who does our seamstress will go and buy this textile from Marabastar to do a garment, then they change the way the garment has been used. But in essence, the garment has not been done through a loom, it's been done through a machine. But now, what we really go on here is the motif that is on it. So when you see someone wearing a garment with a leaf, you may just interact with them to get the oral narrative thereof as a living archive. Then they'll explain that the leaf that is here is signifying color, blue, and then come from it. So this one comes from Central Africa, and it's got a particular unique style. It's got richness in this tapestry. It's got intrinsic colors. And the one that follows, of course, is also coming from, it's called a tie and dye. By this tie and dye technique, you do know the tie and dye was done by women. You've got several buckets of dyes, then you get a string, then you tie the garment, then you dip it in different forms, then you untie it, then you make a garment from there. We see less of tie and dye these days because tie and dye is a process and it's a skill, but the skill is no more there. It needs to be passed to the younger generation. So we depend on machinery produced tie and dye garment. This is ink on calico, bleached calico and unbleached calico. But what is important is the motif that comes there. Now we see a spiral sphere there, so which means continuity. And also reflections, it's called reflections from Central Africa. Now the next one that's going to come is very popular. We call it the kente material. Kente comes from Ghana, and for some reason, the kente material is still being done by the women through a loom. So they sit and do it by hand, and there's an industrial produced one. This one is industrial produced. I'll reflect and show the one that has been produced by hand. It's got woven wool that goes in through it. So what is important here, even if it's machine produced, when someone wears a garment done, we are very happy. There is a pattern repetition in there. So the color of the text of the kente that we see here is the one that you wear for a particular occasion in a formal gathering. So they've got presidential, royal, and ordinary hierarchies as we see them now. They also define the history and the narrative of the society from which they come from. We don't know them, but typically Xhosa and Kentes come from there. Why am I showing the Kente? And then this is the backside of that very material. There's a woven, there's the front side, this is the backside. The woven technique that comes in. I'm saying Kente because according to our my mentor, Professor Matole Mosega, he said, we all come from Central Africa, we all come from Egypt, we migrated. So each time when we migrate, the garments and the textile that we interact with, we bring the tradition back on. So this very material that you see here, you must have seen it somewhere. Of course, at Maraba start being sold, and then is a material that has influenced certain colors. Now remember, now we've got a leaf coming in again here. It's also, this is done through ink as well, and most of the northern province, Limpopo area, will come and buy this type of material. But before we get a textile, which is calico, then we get a potato print. Then we print potato using beeswax. Then you dip the garment in dye. And then it comes on the where the potato print with beeswax was, there won't be pigment there. Then you take a hot iron, you iron the pigment out, then put in the blue dye. The blue dye cannot be stronger than green. It will get this color. That's how you do it. So this is done by hand. And each time you do the process, the young ones learning, of course, done mainly by women, they've got an oral narration of what is happening. And we've got oral songs that they go with it, just like a chant. And in that way, that's how it goes. So the color have got significance. When we look at the next one, which is more Zulu, we look at black and white, the chevrons that we see there. The chevrons is continuity. The white is peace and harmony, and the black that comes there is more of it unifies. So color has got significance. But this is mainly worn in the Zulu area, and then it's also used on the headgears as well. So when you see someone wearing it, you may just, for interest's sake, go like, I like your garment. For which originality speaks that come from? Not tribe, as you said, but from which people and community. Then they'll tell you, this comes from the Zulu, from which area, maybe from Guamapumolo. And it's using that area because it's got significance. Hence, when they wear it with pride because it's got a grounded significance within the very space. Now, I just need to say, let me just get the color stronger. Yes. So this very woven textile has got a long history. Apart from the medium used, it goes like, when you wear it into a particular occasion, it's got that type of royalty and leadership. It serves as a powerful, significant attire for a particular transition of a message. So the message that you interact with it is a message of royalty. So you just wear the garment because now, even if when you want to do something which is sinister, you think of the garment that you are wearing, the shawl that you put on your shoulder. It's got that very strong significance and meaning. So thank you very much. Now this one comes from Indonesia. So these are patterns that were done through ink. Then we take ink and make patterns through ink. And then you take the ink and the paint, which is calico paint or a acrylic paint or textile paint. You paint into the textile itself by hand and by brush. So it gets to be very expensive because it takes time to do it. But each time you look at it, is a significant. Now look at the way it looks when it's longer. This is how it appears. So you wear it as a long shawl in front of you to just justify the royalty of it. Because when someone sees it, go like, this is done by hand, then it's got some energy of the person doing it. It's got such strong narratives. These very narratives don't come cheap. They are very historical and significant to a particular area of existence. Now, the one that we see now here is mainly from Limpopo, which is more basically to the Pedi people. Now, then when you start, okay, I'll do so that you can see, the textile is deeply embedded in the society within which it comes from. And it can be worn daily as a garment to say and justify that I'm a proud northern person. This is my textile garment. That very garment that we wear or is worn, it justifies what type of person you are and from which area you come from. In order to have an oral narration thereof, you may just interview the person wearing the garment. Which originality? Who is the artist and where does it come from? The problem is all these textiles have been done way back, outdated us. But the problem is the historical narration don't come across that way. We just see the garments, we like them, we wear them, but they've got strong historical narrative. So they are living archives. Each time you see a person, interview the person, then you get it. So this one is called embroidery, and let me just make it bigger for us to, if at all it can. Okay, it doesn't. Okay, the embroidery is done through a machine though, but this embroidery can also be done by hand. But you draw the patterns by hand, then the teardrop, which is more like a, if I told you look into the Asian side, is peace and good and bad. Those very signs, you put them opposite. But when you swap them, they do that very Asian icon, good and bad, into one thing. And then the one that is following up is very significant. It also comes from Indonesia, printed. So the tartans that you see there is not tartan, it's patterns. Then you cut through the pattern so that the loom from the loop, because remember a loom has got a wrap and wrap. So the rift that goes across, you bring them so it becomes significant. And the pattern that come, so this is a very long textile, it's about 6 meters long. Instead of you cutting patterns from it, you can hang it as a drapery from a high double volume roll in order to appreciate as a garment and understanding it. So the next one is Kente again, but I needed to bring it closer because this one is done by hand. And each time you see the chevron there, chevrons has got a particular meaning, which is diamond and unity, which is what you really call. So let me just bring meaning to it. And okay, let me just go to that. This very one features royalty, features different levels of hierarchy. At the same time, the person wearing it wouldn't just wear it to a particular event, which is more of a bereavement, because it's got so glorious colors, so many glorious colors. Gold is a color for prosperity, and the rest that come there have got a meaning, but the blue is the sky, the brown corner is to the ground, the green is vegetation. So you wear a particular event, you choose them per choice of event. Thank you very much. And then the next one is also text as Kente hand woven, and then this is also Kente hand woven, and this is also Kente hand woven, but it's that the screen don't show. When you look into it, you see the wraps and the wrap from the loom coming. The textile has got two types of lines, horizontal ones and vertical ones. This is what happens. This is also Kente, and this one is sold by presidential appearance, and it is very good. So the next one that we see again is more of is a machine made, but it's porous. So each and every cubicle that you see there is done by skipping, like people who do knitting. Do you know how to do that particular type of knitting? Then the holes that we see there on the jersey are the patterns. It's not just blanks. So they've got a meaning. And this one is vendor, typical vendor. Unfortunately, it's not done by a vendor person. It's been bought. But traditionally, previously, historically, they were done by hand. And each time you do the chevron, the yellows, they've got strong meaning and significance. And the energy that goes into the person who makes the garment. So we need to understand, we go like, I love your vendor attire, it looks very good. What is the meaning of the pattern that you wear? Then they can give that very oral history, oral narration, which is a living archive. And here we are, just need to say, more can be seen as a weaving, but it's not just weaving, it's significant meaning. Credo Motor said before us, he said, if at all you need to ban a library, you may just let the elders go by without interviewing them. Then the library is gone. So each time you see the elders wearing these garments, let's interview them, because there's a living library and a living archive. And for that, we are always significantly grateful for that. So all this artistry that we see here is more of an oral documentation. We wear them because we understand them. We wear them with pride. And should you ask, we must be able to give the narration thereof. And this is also a garment that is done through dye. The first one is called which is dirty pink. Then the second one is blue. The blue won't see strong on pink, but you see the pink beneath the blue. And the pattern that you see there, then you do pink, you do beeswax, it blocks the color, then you put it in ink. From there you end the beeswax out. This is how it comes. And that's Kente again in different patterns. Again, this is called wonderful. And this is called cashmere. I think it's called cashmere, is what it is. So it's actually, when you see someone wearing in South Africa, it shows how the settlers came there in the Cape, and they came with these garments. So they introduced new material to the area, and as it goes. So we usually wear this as chiffons, or as scarves, or as table mats in the middle, just to decorate it. Because this one came through. So the patterns that you see there is hand woven, machine produced, but more heavy woven. That's what you call mohair. When you see a garment with mohair, this is what it looks like. And again, Kente, this high royalty Kente, done with gold leaf strips as well in it. Yeah, different types of Kentes, and another one as well there. I think I'll rush. So this is also hand done, but machines do produce it. It's also perforated, and the perforation in it is meaning. So each time you see the perforation, it's not titles, but a significant meaning. Kente again, I'm using these materials in order to show that as migration from the Central Africa came through the DRC, those very influential materials are also penetrating. So this is a dye, tie and dye, but again mixed with batik. Batik is a pattern and a tradition that you see in Central Africa. You draw the designs on a cloth calico, then you put it into wax, and then therefore cut them out of wax to start painting the pigments. Where wax is, the pigment don't go. Then you iron the wax out. Then when you put it in the whole deep dye, it comes up like this. Here and there, the patterns will come where the beeswax was. I just need to acknowledge the photographer myself, and I say thank you very much, Asante, for all the listening appearances that I really experienced in this gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Musako, for the wonderful presentation. You have saved us 3 minutes. Thank you for that. And our next speaker, who will be online, will be, I will take the next speaker and then after that we'll break for a 10 minutes break, because I'm told there hasn't been any break so far. So we'll just have Dr. Kuma, who's on the line next, and then after his presentation we'll break and then continue with the presentations. And colleagues, please write your questions down and everything will be taken after the session. IT colleagues, is Dr. Guma ready? Okay. Dr. Mtobeli Philip Guma will be presenting a paper to us titled Uno Depot and Gender Activists in Langa, Remembering Days of Political Struggles, Local Life Histories, Community Organization, and Women's Leaders' Life Histories. Over to you, Doctor, when you're ready. Thank you. Oh, you have 20 minutes. Because it's virtual, I can't time you, so kindly observe the time. Thank you. Oh. Oh, yes, yes. Okay, while they're still trying to locate Dr. Guma, I will just read his biography. Dr. Guma, a Fulbright scholar and Kellogg Fellow, holds a PhD in medical anthropology and multiple degrees in public health and social sciences. He co-founded Sinako Leadership Support and Skills Development Center and is an intercultural communications specialist. Hello, Doc.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon. Is it still morning?
It's still morning, Doc.
You know, the question of modern technology. Yes, I wish to, not to take much time, but do you have the PowerPoint with you? Do you have the PowerPoint?
Doctor, can you please present from your side, then share your screen?
That's what I'm trying to do.
He's trying to do that. Okay. Dr. Guma has served as the chairperson of Heritage Western Cape Council and held leadership roles in various heritage and health organizations. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Guma advocates for the integration of African healing systems and Western medicine. He has received awards for his contribution to public health and heritage conservation and has published extensively on cultural and health-related issues. Again. I think our speaker is experiencing technological glitches. He steps out and comes back. The suggestion is for us to break for 10 minutes. So your colleagues you'll just be on the lookout for him. He's back. Hi, Doc.
Hello?
Are
Can you see this?
Please open your video, Doc.
Open the video.
Yes. Yeah, we can see
Okay.
it. You can click slideshow.
You can see it now.
You can go on slideshow
Slideshow.
from the beginning.
Okay. You can see it right now, all right?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. Because I wouldn't like to be mfundisi. I would try to go on. Now, the notion.
Make your slide full screen by going to the slideshow, then clicking from beginning.
Top left. Top left. To make screen.
Excuse me, please repeat. Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you please repeat what you're saying?
Okay, we just need you to make your presentation full screen, please.
It's not full screen.
Now you can click on the top left, there's an icon written from beginning. Please click that.
Yes.
That one, please.
Do you see it now?
No, it's not
changing.
Okay, you can work
I don't.
either way. We can work.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, you can start presenting, Doc.
Hello?
Hi, Doc. Yes, you can start.
Yeah? Women's voices amplifying marginalized narratives, honoring Umamu Nodipu Sikwana and the legacy of women in Langa. That 1 year of democracy, unfinished work of equality. Our oral histories are, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, 31 years of democracy, unfinished work of equality. Our oral histories are enriched by the stories of women who shaped our liberation and social fabric. Their courage and sacrifices remind us that memory is not passive. It is an active force for justice. Oral history is more than recollection. It is an act of resistance. It restores what the written archive ignored, transforming silence into testimony. South Africa marks 31 years of democracy, a journey marked by both triumph and unfinished transformation. While political freedom was achieved, gender justice remains an ongoing struggle. As we complete 31 years of democracy, we must recognize that freedom alone has not secured equality. Our oral histories reveal the layered struggles of women who fought not only for liberation but for dignity, voice, and belonging. Amplifying marginalized narratives. Introducing Mamuno Dipu Sikwana. Mamuno Dipu embodies the spirit of Ubuntu, intensifying and embracing the old and the present to attain new beginnings. An activist, strategist, and civic leader from Langa, her leadership embodied the spirit of Ubuntu, is fearless, compassionate, and community-driven. From Umamuno Dipu to her daughter, the late Professor Nomvula Mthethwa, the thread of wisdom continues. Their voices reflect a lineage of learning, courage, and service. The struggle was not only for national freedom, but also for the total liberation of the continent and the establishment of the Africanist perspective. That is Ike Molefe. I'm taking that from Ike Molefe. Furthermore, applying marginalized narratives, women such as Charlotte Maxeke, Annie Silinga, and Staffil Fuku positioned themselves at the intersection of liberation and gender justice. Their voices shaped the ideological terrain of the Pan-Africanist and ANC traditions alike. They stood at the intersection of race, gender, and resistance. They defined leadership by centering care, education, and courage. To amplify women's voices is to rewrite history with integrity, to ensure that memory includes all who built the nation. Each story is a monument of defiance and dignity. Ubuntu and the collective memory of women. Community heritage and Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the moral and spiritual foundation of women's leadership. It frames memory as a communal act of healing, instructive and deeply human. From struggle to social innovation, healing was political. Women like nurses Mayo, Kenke, and Griba redefined healthcare as a space of dignity, activism, and holistic restoration. In arts and culture and resistance, in jazz hymns, theater and storytelling, women carried resistance into rhythm, embodying the aesthetic of freedom. Through culture, they turned pain into power, struggle into song, and their art into instruments of survival. Legacy of empowerment. These women leaders in health, education, and community service transformed oppression into opportunity. Their impact and endures in the social fabric of the Langa and beyond. The continuum of women's leadership. History is not past, it is living praxis. The voices of these women continue to teach us how to rebuild society with integrity, compassion, and courage. Through the Langa Legends Heritage Program, we continue to honor the women who shaped our communities, not as distant figures of the past, but as living memory. These initiatives remind us that heritage is not something we store in archives. It breathes amongst us. They connect the past to the present, ensuring that our daughters grow up knowing the strength and the sacrifice upon which they stand. To amplify women's voices is to affirm the very pulse of life itself. Memory is not static. It is a living heartbreak of justice, continually shaping how we understand our collective humanity. As historians and custodians of memory, we are called to listen deeply, to record with integrity, and to celebrate with humility the women whose courage and vision built the foundations of our freedom. Let us discuss, like great minds, the ideas that have steered the world in perpetual movement, so that in the end, we may truly say we are embracing new beginnings. That's it from the Professor Nomvula's Mteto. Now, thank you. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation. Now, it is significant that this presentation is based on the chapter that I've written. Now, this is just a summary of the theme of the chapter, which addresses the political struggles of women and how they have been exemplary in terms of fighting against engaging in political struggle for the freedom that we celebrate today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guma. You have saved us 10 minutes. Colleagues, for now, we're going to just break for 10 minutes. Can we please keep to time so that we continue with the other presentations? I hope colleagues have written their questions on the chat box for Dr. Guma, because I'm not sure if he's going to be able to come back. But it would be great to have you back for the Q&A session, Doc. Thank you, colleagues. We can now break and be back. Oh, yeah, I have announcements as well. So for the announcement, the book is still up for sale for 250. Mr. Figile Josie is busy handling the sale there by the back. And colleagues, you are also reminded to visit our exhibitors who are there exhibiting their products and work. Please let us support them. Prof, did you have? Thank you so much. Colleagues, let us break for tea and be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. You guys are after her. We don't have online anymore.
I think
No.
we do have
Do you think so? No, I mean for my session.
for your session alone.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have this one, and then this one. Yeah, they are here. I just spoke to.
This
Yeah,
invitation,
I don't know. She's here physically. You mean here?
if you can get her for us, so we
To
get the
okay.
presentation. Yeah.
Let me just get the. Sorry, sharp then. Colleagues, let us come back to convene the session. Abuti fix. Ke kopa o mbiletse bona re thomeng. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let us settle down to start with our next presenter. Our next presenter is Dr. Kogilam Achiri. Dr. Achiri started teaching in 1988. She has since progressed to higher education and is currently a research fellow at the University of South Africa with a focus on Indian indentureship and its legacies in South Africa. She edited books for the 1860 Indentured Laborers Foundation, Volume and Unsung Heroes Publication Board, and co-edited Cader Name RAE Autobiography of Rajesh Pillai. Dr. Achiri holds a PhD, Master of Arts, Master of Business Administration, as well as honors in Afrikaans, Netherlands. From 2013, she has been co-opted into the Executive Committee of OHASA, with 12 unbroken years of service working towards national building, social cohesion, and women empowerment. As the series editor of Tell Your Mother's Story, a coffee publication and flagship program of OHASA, she has edited more than 250 stories, opinion pieces, reviews, write-ups, now at volume 8 to be launched in October 2025 in Limpopo. Let us welcome Dr. Achiri, who will be presenting a paper to us titled, I'm not sure if this is still the title that you will be presenting, In Pursuance of Human Dignity, Deliberating on Untold Stories via Tell Your Mom's Story, a flagship publication of OHASA. Let us give her a round of applause as she starts her presentation. Thank you.
Okay. 5 minutes to go. Okay. Oh, sir, Colin. Which one now?
This one's true.
Okay. Okay, and then that. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to present a paper here before you. As you've heard, the title of my paper is In Pursuance of Human Dignity, Deliberating on Untold Stories via Tell Your Mother's Story, a flagship publication of the Oral History Association of South Africa. The main objective of the paper is to share and amplify women's voices by deliberating on the terms. The main objective of the paper is to share details regarding the political, economic, and social struggles of Black African women as they have been chronicled in Volume 7, which was launched in Ulundi in KwaZulu-Natal in 2024. And I come from KwaZulu-Natal. I'm a fourth generation South African Indian. Why was this series chosen? Well, as you've heard, I've been a member of the Oral History Association since 2012. I've served in various capacities, and I initiated this project in 2014 together with the EXCO. Initially, it started out as a fundraiser project, but the page fees posed a problem, and eventually in 2019, we decided to relax the page fees, and in 2020, we had 36 stories. And this volume 3 was launched via virtual launch in August 2020. And thanks to the Deputy Minister at that time, Minister Mafu, on the 9th of August 2020, we launched volume 3. So that is why, I go back to history and decided to do this presentation on the terms. And eventually in 2021, we had volume 4, and here we ceased to become a fundraiser project, right? We've now grown to become an awareness project. So why was this volume 7 chosen? So academic papers have been presented previously on volumes 1 up to and including volume 6. Thus the emphasis now on volume 7, which was launched last year. Hence, it's a very current product. If all goes according to plan, I'm hopeful that in 2026, I shall be able to present a synopsis of volume 8, which was launched 2 days ago on the 7th of October. The background, okay, according to my notes, I would like for you to note that you should focus on the text in red to see the thread that holds these stories together to form a vaulting point that catapults the trajectory of rewriting our collective history. So, in terms of the background, right, in the main, with little or no privilege, Black African women were triply oppressed. They grew up during South Africa's apartheid regime and thus hold close to their hearts a unique part of the country's political, economic, and socio-historical experiences as they witness this abrasive oppression in its most uncompromising forms. It is through their challenging life experiences that South Africans today are able to live in a democracy. Their stories must enable us to add to the literary tapestry of a rich and vibrant South Africa. In terms of methodology, an oral literate methodology was used as oral history methodology enabled the collection of these stories through oral history interviews. Living in a literate world, these stories are electronically saved, stored, and archived and printed for reading pleasure. Some stories are just shared by authors where no interviews are held, but rather the matriarch or the authors write up the stories of focusing on personal testimonies, reflective memories, and community culture. A literature review of previous volumes will amplify and acknowledge the significance of women's voices. To investigate, chronicle, and signify women's voices in this series undeniably adds value to the success of this publication on its onward journey. The introduction. As indicated, the aim of the full paper is to examine, explore, signify, and amplify women's voices by deliberating on terms, and in this instance, volume 7. However, for today's presentation, I have chosen just the Black women's stories to draw attention to their narratives, as they have suffered the most with absolutely very little or no privilege. And because of time, I shall not be able to examine, explore, signify, and amplify their voices, so I shall just share some details regarding the political, economic, and social struggles of Black African women as they have been chronicled in volume 7. What I would like you to do, okay, I've covered that already. So what you will see in red are references to dates of birth, places of birth, aspects of economic innovation, political struggles, as well as social and community culture at work. A Black South African history, as told by Black people, is not only significant, but required to shape the narrative and kaleidoscope of what should be reflected in the educational curriculum and textbooks. In other words, hear it straight from the horse's mouth, especially if the protagonists are septuagenarians who are over 70, octogenarians who are over 80, and non-agenarians who are over 90. For volume 7, we had 28 stories, and the breakdown is as follows. We had 2 from the white community, 2 from the colored community, 5 from the Indian community, and 19 from the black community. Right? So from each story, I shall share just 1 or 2 truths, gems as I prefer to refer to them. I also draw your attention to the titles of the stories, so judiciously, meticulously, and tenderly chosen. These stories have been chosen from the chronological order as they appear in the book, but not necessarily the first story in the book. So, story number 1. The baobab tree that refused to wilt nor die. The story of Ntombi Mazungu Shlela by Dr. Zamo Shlela and Ms. Palesa Shlela. In the heart of Africa, where the vast baobab stands tall, there lies a story of resilience, love, and the enduring power of the human spirit. This is the story of Ntombi Mazungu Shlela, a woman whose life journey was a testament to the strength of the human soul and the deep connections that bind us all together. Beautiful Ntombi Mazungu Shlela, affectionately known as Mom Shlela, was born on a day steeped in cosmic significance, the 21st of June, 1927, a date that coincided with the Aphelion Day in Africa, when the earth reached its furthest point from the sun. She transitioned on the 21st of July, 1973. She was only 46 years old and was survived by 2 boys. The author, I was only 10 years old. The author here, Dr. Zamo Shlela. I was only 10 years old. And my note in green is for us to draw attention to the social struggles that would have occurred around this time. So, I move on to my second story. And my second story is the story of Ella Sesinyana Mabalane, My Mother, by Mahetwa Mpoho. My pillar of strength, my inspiration, my role model and mentor. Mother Sesinyana Ella Mabalane was born in May 1938 at Bredenbach River, Mooiplaas village called Makotile, former Transvaal. Please excuse my pronunciations, I am working on it. Where most of the Mabalane clan were located in the Taba Chwe region, Mpumalanga province. We called her Mane, meaning mother in Sepulana. This heroine, my honorable mother, was born of Lecholane Talita Mabalane, maiden name Maidi, and Mahoto Stephans Mabalane. She was from a family of 10 children, which when we include parents made it a large family of 12. She was the 8th born with 4 males and 6 females who have all since departed this world. So from the first 2 stories, I wanted to draw attention to the date of birth of the matriarchs, which was 1927 and 1938. So their children have memory of stories shared by their parents. So the emphasis now should be to interview these children while they still remember what their parents went through. The economic situation, right, in terms of the Mabalane family, I'm just going to read out the words in red because of time, right? I have quite a few stories to go to. So, education up to standard 1. To babysit, right? That speaks to the economic situation because she was paid to babysit. Then, economically speaking, to go and work went to Cullinan for mine work. Then there's mention of the initiation school. And then there's the issue of the arranged marriage. And then my mother is a great umbokoto, right? Then she would grind maize. And then her wish was to see us all educated, right? But the author explains that this was not the case, but she still accepted that it was God's arrangement. So this is something that we can draw as well from the second story. I then move on to the third story, which is the story of Busisiwe Gaster Makhubo, my mother, my hero, my pillar of strength, by Mr. Jacob Vusi John Makhubo. So she was born in 1942, right, near Pretoria, which is now Rabastad. She's the third born of Nokusa. When Nokusa left Pretoria, she migrated to Vrede, where their parents were born and grew up. They stayed in farms. Both parents grew up on the farms. And we all know about the economic value of farms and what happened to farm laborers and those that lived on the farm. They then decided to migrate to Pretoria for greener pastures. So there was this hope that we could improve, that we could get better. She attended school. She passed Standard 4. She served as a domestic worker. Due to migration, she worked well and was always admired by her boss. The other key words here are perseverance and living 3 decades on that farm. Story 4, Mambanjwa Mzobe, a story dedicated to all who read it, by Dr. to all who read it, by Dr. Clotilda Zondo. So this is another area in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm not going to try with the pronunciation of the names, but you can read it there. So she was born into a farming area, a farming family. Her parents did not involve her much in farming, but she did acquire some farming skills from them. It seems they suspected their child might not have interest in farming. So after high school, Magdalena was sent to a teacher's training college, and we see that many of our heroines are also teachers or nurses. So after graduation, she shared her story, and then she passed away. Her husband passed away in 1956. She then brought up her children as a single parent. And this is another aspect that we find in these stories, that mums bringing up they're bringing up the children on their own. But parents always pass on the wisdom of education and why it is important. So before she passed on, she warned the other children to make sure that they assist the younger children financially to attain professional qualifications. Her plea was understood and accepted, and that is why the family just did that, ensured that all the other children were educated. So I'm going to go on to story number 5. Keywords: trained as a teacher, Nelspruit, because as a married woman in the Transkei government, she was not allowed to teach, right? Here the politics comes into it, and the rationale of the time was that she has a husband who takes care of her. Typically the saying, a woman's place is in the kitchen. Story number 6 of Lorato Mwanwe Banana Makole by Ms. Kenilwe Makole. So the family sought refuge from the trials of life. I've got 200 rand in bold, and the other bold was because women were not allowed to own land. Her mother was forced to relocate to Rooibult, right? Mama found herself shouldering responsibilities far beyond her tender years. Story number 7, we go to the Eastern Cape, right? Some women also went to work, and they went to work far away, but mainly they looked after children, the house, and animals. And this author writes, Mary Nompomolelo Aslina Madikisela writes, when I was 6 in 1956, I remember looking one day for my goho, and she was nowhere to be found. It seemed to me that she had been away for a long time. I was confused that she was gone for the first time, and I was happy when she returned. Years later, I discovered that Goho had gone to the union buildings with many women to protest against the Dompas. Okay, there is something here about the winter and, written very creatively, but there's no time now to go into it. But she does mention some words of the mother tongue, which included here in italics. And for light, they talk about paraffin and all of that. So I do have a printed copy if somebody wants to read it. The government moved us. This story talks about the forced removals and how they had to sleep outside and not to be caught. I did not sleep in the house, but in the veld behind the house. My aunt found me work in Sydenham. This is a story in Durban. Story 8 is a story by Ms. Kolo Makena. Story 9 is Dina never had any biological children. Story 10, they dipped their fingers into different professions, so we see change. Story 11, the high and low notes of a village girl's life by Professor Nomusa Zimu. And then here the one quote that I'd like to mention is Africanization of colonization. Story 12, Mom used to call us by numbers because it's not easy for her to remember our names. There were so many children in the family. Story 13, we played indigenous games like Umasigenda. So obviously we need to include this when we are rewriting textbooks because I'm not sure if children still play these games, right? When I messed up, my parents admonished or beat me with a stick. If we saw one of the women suffering, we helped her with food. I used to slaughter goats and cows to perform family rituals. I did not escape apartheid. Story 14, born and raised in Soweto, Zulu speaking, Soto. Almost done. Story 15, Phases to My Freedom. This is by a younger writer, and she talks about the intergenerational differences in culture and how one looks at the same situation. And here in red, women were groomed for arranged marriages, for financial benefits, to uplift the standard of living of households. Okay, story 16, Surviving the Unknown, Boitumelo Kotoi by Mshweshwe Mofokeng. He didn't know his biological father, and she quotes the song of Lie to Me, Brooke Benson's famous song. So, before I go to my conclusion, so according to Ms. Mofokeng, the limitation of expanding the knowledge base, particularly on lived experiences of black women in South Africa, to foster and enable support to optimize reflection is pressingly agonizing. Jubilantly, the current state of our country's political state as a democratic country we enjoy today has brought more freedom and agency for women. Largely black South African women is triumphant. In conclusion, I would want to say that South African black women grew up during South Africa's apartheid regime and thus hold close to their hearts a unique part of the country's political and economic experiences as they witnessed this abrasive oppression in its most uncompromising form. Their stories must enable us to add to the literary tapestry of a rich and vibrant South Africa. This presentation chronicled the struggles of black African women as they were shared in Volume 7. Having investigated these stories, there is affirmation that this volume will undeniably add value to the success of the coffee table publication. And I'd also like to share that it is time that we took the content of the Tell Your Mother stories from Volume 1 to Volume 8 into account when looking at the new curriculum, looking at the new syllabus, to look at the poignant parts of what black African women went through, because these stories are now written by their daughters, their children, people from the community, and they have been interviewed, or they even may have written it down, but we have the raw sources, primary sources to consider in the rewriting of our curriculum. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akiri. For now, we're going to move to our next presentation, which will be done by Dr. Maseke Mabelani, Zanele Shabangu, and Hlamalani Mapoli. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing the surnames. As they ascend the stage, I'm just going to briefly read their biographies. Dr. Maseke. Okay. I'm just being told that Ms. Zanele is not around, so it will be presented by Dr. Mabelani and Ms. Mapoli. Is it Mapoli or Mapodi? Mapoli, okay. So, Dr. Mabelani is a teacher by profession. She has served the government for 40 years. She served in the senior management level in government from 2001. She holds a PhD in public management and governance. She is attached to the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs. Amongst her accolades are both the Provincial and National Black Management Forum Manager of the year 2004. And Ms. Hlamalani Alice Mapoli holds a BTech in Public Management, a National Diploma in Public Administration, a Diploma in Electronic Origination, and a Certificate in Public Management. She is currently Department of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Environmental Affairs as the Deputy Director, Section Employee Health and Wellness, and a Coordinator for Female Entrepreneur Awards in the department. She is an empathetic and passionate advocate for women empowerment and wellness. Her energy and resilience are inspiring. So the title of their paper is Women Voices in Agriculture. Colleagues, over to you. You have 20 minutes. I will waive the page when there's 5 minutes left. So you will share the time accordingly. Thank you.
Bagolo baka dumelang. Really Department ya Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs, we appreciate this opportunity. Ere ke thome ka gore nna ke le kgalang le le hubedileng go ntlha le ja kgomo le mokgopa ke ngwana a tswa go shakwaneng ba re shakwaneng motho le motho go ba bang go ba ba motho a sa jewego. Our contents will be as it stands in the slide. In our introduction, we are saying our study seeks to illustrate that voices of women in agriculture are still silenced through little schooling, apartheid laws that include the Natives Land Act and the Group Areas Act. South Africa have signed a number of conventions, declarations, and there is very little implementation. We note, however, that our constitution, the Women's Charter for Effective Equality, the 1954 copy, 1994 copy, 2021 copy, they are still emphasizing equality in every aspect of the life of women, though we still see very little happening. Our aim is to preserve the narratives, the oral histories of these 12 women, smallholder and commercial farmers. We want to describe these women's route that took them where they are in agriculture today. Because indeed, smallholder and commercial for a woman, nohal black woman, is not a small feat. We want to illustrate the contribution that they are making to food security and employment. We want to expose their coping strategies, and we want to share their successes and aspirations. Literature review has been done. That's where we got our methodologies, our data analysis, and our data collection. And we also found that oral history methodologies are better suited for our study. In our setting, these 12 women come from Mpumalanga province in the 3 districts of Ehlanzeni, Garsbande, and Ngangala. They are from 3 generations, with the youngest being 29 years and the oldest being 82 years. These women have all received some assistance to a particular extent and form. Their education ranges from standard 5, because Gogo said once you have a certificate, and those days when you get a certificate at standard 5, it meant the girl was educated. However, some of them do have nursing, teaching, marketing, and agriculture studies. Collectively, they have scooped 30 awards. Our sampling is purposive. Our population is Mpumalanga province women farmers. And in our data analysis, we are going to use qualitative methods. And in our data collection, we are using literature review, but primarily oral history recordings. Now I will invite my co-presenter, Shamalani Mapoli, to take us through the 12 women. I hope we will manage.
Thank you. Absheni. Mina ngwa Stefani Shamalani. Stefani atswarwa hi Risenga. Ni ngwa Chabalala, hi vadibati Hlamfi, ntukulu wa Timbeva. Ndi mutanoni wa Mapoli Masingo, ubvangwenani ya Mapoli. I will take you colleagues through the 12 female farmers that I've been working with. The first one will be Mam Esther Mhlongo, who's a 65-year-old retired teacher and a commercial farmer. She's farming on 375 hectares that she has leased from government for a 30-year period. She farms with macadamia and a nursery for macadamia, avocados, kikuyu grass, and she also has 10,000 layers. She employs 36 permanent workers and 71 seasonal workers. Our next farmer is Miss Julia Shungube, a 48-year-old former security guard, a smallholder farmer on a 27-hectare land, which she has rented from the local Induna. She farms with Umhlafusha. Umhlafusha is Jatropha castor. From the oil that she processes, she produces body butter, body lotion, tissue oil, and hair food. She has 10 permanent workers and she employs 25 seasonal workers. Her market includes various pharmaceutical companies in and around Mbombela and the whole of the province. We have Miss Kulile Mahlalela, who's a 37-year-old agricultural graduate. She's a smallholder farmer. Miss Kulile, after graduation, she worked for a company that unfortunately closed after the breakout of listeriosis. From the severance package, she started her own farm where she farmed with pigs. She specialized in artificial insemination. She has since grown to a peach farm where she is leasing 123-hectare land through the government. She employs 8 permanent workers and 50 seasonal workers. Mayor Matelela Hazel is a 66-year-old retired nurse. She's a commercial farmer on a 325-hectare land that is leased through government for 30 years. She farms with broilers. She has 10 houses with a capacity of 30,000 beds per house. She also farms with maize, soybeans, and sugar beans. She also farms with livestock, which is cattle and sheep. She employs 7 permanent workers and 37 seasonal workers. Our next farmer, Ms. Mtsweni Emily, she's a 40-year-old. She is a marketing graduate. She's a smallholder farmer on a 10-hectare land that she is renting from the community in Duna. She farms with 500 layers and she also grows vegetables. She employs 4 permanent workers and 10 seasonal workers. Her market is Kusile. We have Ms. Lungile Mkize. Ms. Lungile is 32 years old. She's an agricultural graduate, a commercial farmer. She farms on an 8-hectare piece of land which she has leased. She farms with layers. She produces approximately 15,000 eggs per day, and she also farms with vegetables. She employs 12 permanent workers and 8 seasonal workers. We have also Ms. Sania Mukwena, who's a 29-year-old marketing graduate. She's a commercial farmer. Ms. Sania was born to a farm worker whom through land claims, they were fortunate to remain in the farm, and she took over from her dad just after COVID when they started struggling financially. She took the farm and she is producing wheat, which she manages to have 100 tons per season, beans 200 tons, and maize at 400 tons per season. She also has 130 heads of cattle and about 60 goats. She employs 7 permanent workers and up to 500 seasonal workers depending on their produce. We have Ms. Masuku Pumzile. Ms. Masuku is 50 years old widow. She is a smallholder farmer. She started farming due to being a widow where her husband was the sole provider. She is farming on a 28-hectare land which she inherited from her in-laws. She farms with pepper dew peppers. She produced 200 tons for export markets to Mexico. She also farms with cannabis, which she is preparing for export market. She employs 8 permanent workers, and through the CDW, she manages to employ about 180 community workers to help in the farm. We also have Ms. Njabulo Mbokane, a 29-year-old. She is a graduate of Gibbs with business management degree, a smallholder farmer on a 200-hectare leased land. This girl, she is privately leasing the land, and she grows maize, soybeans, sugar beans, and she also raises sheep. She manages to produce 136 tons yellow maize for SAB. She employs 4 permanent workers, and she also does have other 80 seasonal workers. The next farmer, Ms. Maya Nomvula, she's a 65-year-old commercial farmer. Ms. Maya got into farming because she couldn't go far in schooling since she was epileptic. She's on a 450-hectare leased land where she owns 13 houses of broilers with a capacity of 35,000. She's a contract grower for Goldie Chicken. So next time you buy your Goldie Chicken, you know where it comes from. She employs 30 permanent workers and 100 seasonal workers. She also farms in cattle, maize, beans, and vegetables. Ms. Sarah Kumalo is a 62-year-old smallholder farmer. She started farming after she helped a neighbor, and the payment used for the help she offered was a calf. And she named the calf Driefontein. So from Driefontein, she grew a love for rearing cattle. She is currently having over 800 beef master cattle. She's farming on 325 hectare leased land. She also have over 1,000 goats. She also farms with maize and lucerne, which she uses for her livestock. And our last farmer, Ms. Beauty Skosana, we affectionately call her Gogo. She's 82 years old. She's a retired correctional services employee. She farms on 1,369 hectare leased land from government. She farms with maize, soybeans, and sugar beans, of which she produces around 800 tons to 1,200 tons per season. And she employs 8 permanent workers and about 400 seasonal workers. All these farmers, they do experience challenges, and which is land. You would have heard me, all of them, they are on leased land. And you look at our counterparts, the white farmers, they are not on leased land. They are on privately owned land. So we are hoping and pleading that our women can be empowered by making land available for them so that they can produce more and employ more people. Another challenge that they have is funding, which the government tries to assist, but we also need our private stakeholders to jump in and assist. Also, theft is a big issue for all the farmers and even households, as well as expensive equipment that makes it difficult for them to run their businesses, as they have to spend so much money on hiring the equipment from the white farmers. They also have problems with strategic partners, where they end up discontinuing working with the strategic partners because they cost them too much. And they all have a need for growth, where they need to have mentors that can help them. In terms of climate change, they are adapting well to the climate change through our offices, both the national and the provincial office, Department of Agriculture, where they are timelessly warned about any adverse climate change. Thank you.
And when Gogo is asked, when are you retiring? She says, Mtwanam, isiso asina pension, so I will not retire. Our key findings are that farming is difficult and yet doable, that land access, use and control pose challenges. However, these women had ways of maneuvering. It's either they went to the traditional leaders for right to occupy. Thank you very much, those traditional leaders that are offering our women this access to land. Some of them have leased either private or government land, and others were even using the in-laws' land, and they even learned agriculture from the in-laws, particularly the father in the family. Between them, they are sharing 3,504 hectares. Their challenges have already been mentioned. They mention that their success is based on making the paperwork right. Though one has a problem with environment impact assessment certificate, and they say their success is based on them reinvesting, particularly those prize monies, because there were a number of thousands into their businesses. They are all planning for expansion. They even dream of building an agricultural school, an abattoir for chickens. They want to distill the eucalyptus forest. They really want to go into bigger agro-processing ventures. Among them, they have appointed 77 permanent workers and 621 seasonal workers. They allow their projects to be learning environments. They give back to the community, and farming is a lifelong project. The strength of our study is that these women are assisted by our department and the sister departments. As a result, eyewitness evidence is advantage. Ms. Mapoli is actually running the Women Entrepreneur Awards. That's where we source these women. We have an idea of what they are doing. As they tell us, we are also able to check and balance. We were supposed to be 3, 1 is sick. Between us, we speak 6 languages. So these women did never had a problem in speaking in their own languages as we were taking the interviews. Our limitation is that we focused on Mpumalanga, and even at that, we could not go through all the municipalities. We feel that the spread is not big enough. However, there are some limitations. And we are grateful for our department to have allowed us, in terms of resources, to be able to go crisscross the province and be able to get all these interviews. It is unfortunate that one of our interviewees passed on the day before we were supposed to interview her. So we have lost, but I think one day we will go to the family in her memory, right? Maybe for Teams, we hope we will have space and she will be part of it. We recommend that the declarations and the conventions should be implemented to the letter. Which is a structure that introduced Mamaya, Maskosana, Mama Telela, should be strengthened. Land reforms should be progressive, programs should be transformative and intense. And funding and training should be intensified. There is a need for a strategy to assist these farmers with equipment, because every one of them is not happy with the expense of the equipment. And we believe that these women, like all other women, deserve land rights and land reform that is intensive and transformative. In conclusion, despite many conventions, declarations, and frameworks, women are still silent. Even in agriculture, women are still silent. However, these women have shown with resilience, vision, and hard work that they have a voice. Their work is speaking for them. These women are still impacted upon by the Land Act, the Natives Land Act, and the Group Areas Act. These women are contributing to education, food security, and employment. Thus, land reform should ensure that our women's voices are heard. Thanks. We forgot to ask you whether you had breakfast this morning. Because if you had, you should thank these women.
Thank you so much, Doc and Ms. Lamulani. That was a very powerful presentation. And now you're going to move to our next speaker, Mr. Chamda. Is he around? Oh, yes. Okay. Mr. Chamda is currently a coordinator of the Joburg Crisis Alliance at the Ahmed Kathara Foundation. He began his professional career as a history and art teacher before moving into local government, where he represented the African National Congress. He has served in senior political and administrative roles, including Mayor, Speaker, MMC of Finance, Executive Director of Planning and Municipality Manager. Following his departure from the local government in 2016, he consulted for the provincial government and later joined civil society as project manager for the EU, co-founded African for Accountability Initiative. With extensive experience across government and civil society, he is committed to strengthening accountability and deepening the interface between communities and governance. In 2022, he published The Origin and 55 Years of Pioneerial History of Roshni. He maintains a strong interest in documenting local histories, believing that every community should preserve its story in some form or order. The title of his presentation is Memory, Land and Identity in Roshni, a 55-year journey. Thank you. Let's welcome him on stage.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Greetings, everybody. I hope to share with you this project called the 55-year history of my little village called Roshni, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. And I hope that what I share with you will inspire some of you to go and check what is there that exists about your own town, village, and how much of that history is recorded and saved somewhere. And of course, at the heart of this particular project was the oral history of the people that live in this area. And so I've also brought a copy of one of the products of that oral history, which is a coffee table book, which we've published, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So really, what I want to do in this presentation is talk to you about this project, give you a little bit of historical context, and perhaps just share with you some of the academic key points. So this project called the Roshni 55 Project, let me start with this. This is really an overview of this project in numbers. The idea was really floated in the 90s, and in a community, everybody talks about the history of your area, and it's a lot of talk, but you never really get down to it sometimes. And you can see we were exactly the same. We talked about this for a long time, and we really didn't get down to doing it. But in 2015, I had decided that something needs to be done, and in 7 years, and 7 intense years, I finally started this project with the community, because a community history cannot be done without the full cooperation of the community. And I'll talk a little bit about how the cooperation of the community actually helped to produce this history and the oral part to it. I started off, the first set of interviews were video interviews, but I quickly abandoned the idea of video interviews. It was just too much of effort to set up the equipment, etc. But rather, I moved to oral interviews, recording them. And in total, for this particular project, there were 82 oral interviews which were conducted, and all of which have been digitally archived. We also used a collection of 242 newspaper articles that covers the history of the community. And these were reviewed, and many of them are included in the final publication. But something unique that we tried to do, and I need to tell you how some of these oral interviews went. We visited families, and we asked them to please bring out of the cupboard, there on the top shelf, right at the back, that box of photographs of their family. And once those photographs came out and we spread them all over the table, the stories really started flowing. And so we found that the family albums was one of the finest ways of getting the conversations going about the history of the family and the history of the area. And over the course of the project, we managed to get 12,000 photographs from the community. I have an interest in photography, and so my own collection of about 400,000 photographs eventually were used to also provide material for the project. A little bit of context now. I mean, you're hearing this word Roshni, and it's a place. Where is this? But let's just go back. So Indian families settled in Vereniging, and Vereniging is a town in the Vaal, commonly known as the Vaal, in the early 1900s. So really, to find out where this community came from, I needed to go back to the 1900s, and so it's really a 120-year history that is covered in this project. Many of them were traders that came because of the discovery, because you had water in the Vaal River, and then the discovery of coal led to the startup of the steel industry. And so really, that is how and why the Indian community began to settle in this particular area. And of course, the issue of land is quite important in this story. So, historical context, and I'll skip this because some of you, this is material that you can find readily in histories of the Indian community. And from 1910 onwards, of course, there was the various legislations that affected land, etc., which really gave rise to this community. I thought I'd share with you just one page of the 340 odd pages that are in this coffee table book. This is what a page looks like. It's big, it's A3 in size. Some of the sources were photographs, family photographs, newspaper articles. There's nothing more valuable than a family diary. And you know, our great-grandfathers had a history of keeping like literally a family logbook, where they recorded events and births and deaths and important events in the family. So to find an original family diary that actually went back to 1903 was extremely valuable. To find an original letter written by Mahatma Gandhi when he acted on behalf of one of the local families from 1908. These are the kind of source material that are extremely valuable to historians. So this is really just one sample page from the book. When the Indians moved to Vereniging, these are two photographs which show an Indian area which became known as Asiatic Bazaar on the outskirts of Vereniging, commonly known as Top Location. In the city itself, that particular photograph actually shows a corner that was dominated by Indian business people. Their shops were at the bottom, the houses were either on the top or in the back of the shops. The house in blue is from a nearby area called Everton. And then from all the surrounding rural areas, there were settlements all over the Vaal. This map really shows you that when Roshni was finally established because of the Group Areas Act, remember Group Areas Act 1950, this community was built, the houses were built in 1967. So why 1950 to 1967? Well, that's the period of resistance. That's when people refused to move into the area. But of course, the government at the time then started all sorts of ways of ensuring that people moved out of Vereniging. And this really shows you where the people originated from and how they ended up coming to this particular area. This is what Roshni looked like in 1967. A well-developed, with decent infrastructure. Of course, the roads are still gravel in 67. But these council-built houses were modest, but you know, they were a huge improvement from what you saw just in the past slide. And that's what Roshni's looked like today. It's a typical Indian area as a result of the Group Areas Act. And they are all over the country. I think even here in Polokwane, I think you've got an area called Nirvana or something. Those are typical Indian areas because of the Group Areas Act. Out of the oral history, we were able to put together a publication, and I just want to share a little bit about the publication, and of course I've brought one copy just for those that may be interested. It's a large copy. Please take my advice, don't ever print an A3 size coffee table book that's as heavy as this one. It's clumsy, it's not easy to read, you've got to sit at a table and you've got to, you can't relax in bed and look at it, right? You rather do a smaller book in volumes that are manageable, so that's a lesson that I learned. It's 340 pages. Included in the publication, there's 150 newspaper articles. 3,500 of that big collection eventually have found their way into the book. The cost of printing this book was 350,000 Rand, but it was covered because on the back, I offered sponsorship to families and businesses. So they paid for the entire publication through their sponsorship. We printed 500 copies on the day of the launch on the 3rd of February. We sold all of them at the launch, right? 500 copies, we sold them at 1,000 Rand a copy. We raised 500,000 Rand for the community. And that was just given to community organizations. Now I know that the Roshni is predominantly a community of business people, so they could afford to make those donations. But this is where government needs to step in. Not all communities will be able to raise that sort of money. But if government really wants every local history to be captured, it needs to put money and resources so that these things can be done. Just a few of the academic points which would be of interest to the academics. The abstract and the aims, it was really about the importance of local histories. The aim was to preserve the lived experience of this community through oral history, archives, and memory. The method that was used was a community-led oral history design. The data was oral testimonies, newspaper articles, and in particular the photo archives. It was very much participatory, and that is why, when we launched the book, we had 1,000 people in the venue. I mean, the whole community came because we were telling their story. They couldn't wait for the book. They wanted to see where they feature, and of course, just about everybody in the community features in this publication. So it was participatory, and it was a qualitative approach. The themes were really about displacement and resilience. People were displaced from top location, Vereeniging, Everton. The group areas forced them into a new area, but they started up. And through resilience, they managed to reorganize themselves. Religious institutions, clubs and societies, schools started flourishing, and people really overcame the forced removals by building a community. Religion, education, and community rebuilding, and then of course the hybrid culture and identity. We all have to manage our multiple identities, and that continues to be a struggle even in this community. But at least there is a reference point of where you come from and the evolution of the community. So very much it was about land, the dispossession and reconstruction because of the Group Areas Act and the forced removals. The memory was really about resilience, voice, post-memory. I must tell you, this book is a treasure for the people from this community because they hold this in their hands, and it is their history, it is their story, it is their voice. And so it's an important part of the living memory. It's about rebuilding identity and place. And overall, it really shows that even though there was this land loss, we've used that to generate memory work. And memory produces heritage. Land was lost, heritage was rebuilt, and memory made it endure. And telling history became an act of resilience and recovery. So really, these are the three things which I've touched on. And if you want to just know a little bit more about the project and the launch and what a wonderful occasion it was in February of 2022, please go to my personal website, which is ych.co.za, and there's an icon that says Roshni 55. If you click on that, you'll see the whole celebration that went around the launch of this project, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chamda. You have saved us 6 minutes. What I forgot to mention was that he is presenting under the sub-theme Memory, Land and Identity in Towns and Countrysides. So colleagues, this was supposed to be the last presenter for this session, but there is Professor Munyaradi Mushonga, who has requested to present in our session because he has a family emergency and needs to go. So may I kindly ask colleagues to allow them to present now. Prof, you can come to present your session. I'm not sure if you had already given your presentation to the colleagues, but they will help us. While they come to set it up, I'm just going to read out his biography. Professor Mushonga is an interdisciplinary scholar in a post-colonial and decolonial theoretical and activist orientation. He is an associate professor and the immediate past program director for Africa Studies in the Center for Gender and Africa Studies at the University of Free State. He is the global academic director for the Decolonial International Network, and his decolonial scholarship and activism are informed and driven by the question, what are the things that we cannot know because of what we know? He strongly believes that other knowledge and other world civilization is possible. The DJ, can you please play us some music while we wait for the IT colleagues to help load his presentation? Yeah. The first.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Madam Chairperson, thank you so much, and the program director for accommodating me. I really appreciate it. I don't want to take anything for granted. The title of my talk is as flighted there. It's Return to the Source, the decolonial Hotsongato and the struggle for indigenous African languages. I think many of us do know who Hotsongato is. And if some of you have no idea, I guess in the course of the presentation or the talk, you will have an idea of who he is. But many of you will know him, I'm convinced.
So allow me to start by paying respects to the ancestors and guardians of the land where our feet are standing today. These ancestors and guardians whose knowledges and ways of knowing and ways of doing were ridiculed at best and infantilized and massacred at worst by the Euro-American philosophical and anthropological genocidal machine. But today, we are here to rehumanize that. Today, we are here to reclaim that, because every human being is born into a valid and legitimate knowledge system. Every human being needs to know in order to live, and needs to live in order to know. For without knowing, there is no living. Without living, there is no knowing. So we need to return to the source. And when we talk about returning to the source, in the Ngugi wa Thiong'o way, it is returning to people. And returning to people means returning to their languages, to their cultures, to their histories, to their cosmologies, and to their spiritualities. So this is a call that I am making today, and I guess I can stop here because I think I've tried to give a sum up of this talk. And this is what Ndate Khotso Ngato represents, because he has been calling and is still calling for us to make African languages fashionable. Because we all do know that under colonialism, indigenous African languages and knowledge systems were not only made to die, but they were forced to give way to 6 European colonial and imperial languages: Spanish, Portuguese, English, Italian, and you name it. And this is how Ngugi wa Thiong'o puts it when he tries to demonstrate how these 6 European colonial languages displaced our languages. And he writes, and I quote word for word, "Your past must give way to my past. Your literature must give way to my literature. And my way is the highway and the only way." And this is exactly what we are living, what we are experiencing in the 21st century. Right now, you and me are reconnecting, are conversing in one of those 6 European colonial languages. So this piece of work that I'm sharing with you is based on oral interviews that I had with Ndate Khotso Ngato. And I basically seek to do 2 main things. The first thing that I seek to do is to make a clarion call for privileging indigenous African languages in everything that we do. And according to Ndate Khotso Ngato, he is simply saying we must make African languages fashionable. We must make African languages fashionable. That's the term he uses. And then the second aim of my presentation is to challenge DSAC and to challenge OHASA and to challenge similar organizations, similar stakeholders like SASA. I know the president of SASA is here, Maite. And to challenge also our national, our provincial, and our district archives. And to challenge departments of histories, cultures, and heritages that are in our universities, and to challenge every person in the Rainbow Nation to identify with indigenous languages And to go out there and collect these histories and collect these stories because they matter. We need to unearth them because, as we all know, once an elderly person departs and joins the world of the ancestors, a library is banned. So we need to do that. So these are the two things that I am putting across to you. So in August 2024, I was invited by the Central University of Technology in the Free State to give a talk together with 3 other key speakers on the occasion of the 3rd annual Dr. Hotso Nkato public lecture under the theme Decoloniality in higher education, in the higher education sector. Instead of trying to give a very generic lecture in decoloniality in higher education, what I decided to do was to point my gun at Ndate Hotso Nkato himself, also known as Mpeme Mpeme. Any of you know of Mpeme Mpeme? Wamsiwa. So this is the character that I'm talking about. And this is the challenge that I'm throwing to you. There are so many luminaries like that in our societies. I wish I had time I could also talk about Ndate Pitika Nduli. I have massive information from the interviews I have had with him. If I had time, I could also talk about Joyce Siwani. I have massive information in the interviews that I had with her. But I guess the message is already clear. Go out there, collect these oral histories because they matter. Because once they join the world of ancestors, we've lost this archive. And we are talking about untold stories, untold archives, and preserving some of these archives. And we need to do it. We must not just stand here at the podium and pontificate and theorize without making it practical. So that's my challenge. I guess some of you would know that Ndate Hotso Nkato was born in 1953 on the 23rd of September. And his father was a teacher, and he was born to a mother who was a great storyteller, of course, together with the father. And he is a Mukubungu. Who are the Mukubungs here? Do you know a Mukubung? He belongs to the hippopotamus totem. Okay? He is a Mpugum, excuse me. And he hails from Mama Habane in Ventersburg. They call it a one horseshoe town. And that's where he was born and that's where he grew. And just this last September, his community, Mama Habane, threw an appreciation party for him to recognize him and to thank him for putting Mama Habane on the map, for the visibility and impact of Mama Habane. And they held an appreciation. If you check on the website, if you check on Facebook, on the Facebook, some of you will see those pictures. It was a marvelous occasion. So one highlight of his life, which I want to talk about briefly, was the drama that was written by the late Ndate Gibson Kende, titled How Long? And in this drama, he starred, when he was training as a teacher at Tsia Teachers Training College. So what Hotso did was he was set to feature in a protest drama. It's a protest drama titled How Long? So he was set to feature in that drama, and at the very last minute it was cancelled because it was regarded as politically toxic. And this left Ndate Hotso Nkato fuming with fury and boiling inside. So politically, of course, politically toxic because it was asking penetrating and difficult questions of the time, namely, and in the words of Hoto himself, and I quote, "How long shall we suffer this way? How long must we suffer in this way, O Lord? How long the tears? Oh, how long the tears? Tell me, Lord, how long?" And so this drama, How Long, was actually a cry for emancipation. And Ndate Hoto Ngato thinks that How Long actually fueled the spirit of fighting and resisting apartheid and led, of course, to the birth of the Rainbow Nation in 1990. And I think the message that we get here is that Ndate Hoto is also challenging us in our time, right now, to ask difficult and penetrating questions. Because if we don't ask difficult and penetrating questions, we are not doing any justice to ourselves. Because the silly questions will give you silly answers. We need difficult and penetrating questions. And once we do that, we are moving towards the decolonial trajectory that can liberate us. So in today's world, I think we can still talk about how long should we continue to rely on these 6 modern European colonial and imperial languages? How long shall we continue with this blatant colonization of our minds? How long must we suffer under the Western philosophical and anthropological machine? Tell me, Lord, how long? Hoto Ngato actually started acting at the age of 15. 15 years he was already acting, featuring prominently in school dramas and dramas commonly known as sketches. And he went on to establish a reputation amongst the students as a popular actor, playing lead roles in most of the dramas that he participated in. And what is the message that we get here? I don't just want to narrate what he was doing. I want to marry this with the lessons that we can take home. The lessons that we take home here, and if you want, allow me to be biblical. I would want to refer you to the book of Proverbs. The chapter is 22 and the verse is 6. It reads, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Ndate Hoto Ngato was trained by his father, by his mother, at a tender age to love knowledge, to love wisdom, to love his language, to love his culture, and to love himself. Because when you love your culture, your language, you are loving yourself. And this is what we should do. And my challenge to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that, how many of you, how many of us who are here today love our indigenous African languages? And how many of us in this house today speak and converse to our kids in our indigenous languages? I have brothers, I have relatives, I have friends, I have colleagues who reprimand me when I try to talk to their kids in Shona, telling me, "Please stop. Don't talk to my kid in Shona. He or she does not understand Shona." What the hell is that? Thank you, I'm being shown the red card. Okay. So this is one of the important lessons that we get from Ndate Hoto Ngato. Let us train our children at a tender age. I think we do all know that if we try to bend a dry stick, it will break. But if it is a soft stick, it will go with you in any direction. Okay. And the other aspect of Ndate Hoto that I want to talk to in the last 5 minutes that are left, but the chair owes me 3 more minutes on top of 5 because she used my pen without paying. So when I asked Ndate Hotso to sum up the main message in Mpeme, he simply responded with one word: forgiveness. Forgiveness. So if you didn't know the message, you may want to go and play or relook at Mpeme and see whether you can get that idea of forgiveness. Because he says Mpeme was wronged, deeply wronged, deeply aggrieved, deep wounds. But in the end, he forgave everyone. So that's the case. So allow me to fast forward and say that Ndate Hotso, when we talk about Ndate Hotso, we are talking about a luminary here, a man of many talents, a jack of all trades, one who can speak Sesotho, English, Afrikaans, Setswana, Sepedi, isiZulu, isiXhosa. Some of us are only limited to one language. What a shame. And the other important message here is that, and I know many of us frown and fume at people, black people, Africans, who cannot speak their mother tongue. But when a French cannot speak English, we respect him. A Portuguese cannot speak English, we respect him. A Spaniard cannot speak English, we respect him. But when an African can't speak English, he is stupid. He is dumb. He is backward. What nonsense is that? Sorry for the language. And one thing that you need to know is that these people, this Euro-American anthropological and genocidal machine does not respect you, no matter how educated you are. And listen to this, a writing by 2 of these scholars who said, neither Christianity nor a university degree could overcome inborn African inferiority. Europeans were therefore not only born to rule and dominate commerce, religion, and government, but it was their duty or divine mission to do so, since only they could so order the world and lead to universal happiness. I want to check, when was the last time any of you was very, very happy? Raise your hands. If you were very, very happy in the last few days, raise hands. You see, very few of us. All right. So our languages are beautiful, says Ndate Hotso, especially when you add with idioms. There is nothing more pleasing to see and watch someone speaking in our languages. So as I shut down, I think I have 99 seconds. As I shut down, ladies and gentlemen, Ndate Hotso challenged the churches, Ndate Hotso challenged the schools, Ndate Hotso challenged everyone to contribute to making our languages fashionable. He said, the churches have a role to play to promote our language. The same way they are promoting English. It has become fashionable for a Mosotho speaker to preach to the whole congregation of Basotho in English and have a Mosotho translating into Sesotho. So to make our languages fashionable, ladies and gentlemen, this deposition by Hotso Ngato has taken me to another level where we need to deal with one of the biggest scams under the sun. We can translate everything. Check the French. They teach mathematics in French. Check the Russians. They teach everything in Russian. Check the Spaniards. They teach everything in Spanish. So when you get told that you can't teach in your own language, what does that say to you? What does that say to you? So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, in my last interview with Ndate Hotso, I asked him about his best moment in life. And he simply told me that his best moment in life was when his community organized that recognition party. And then I asked him, what is your message to the youth? He simply said, go tell them that they must love themselves, and loving themselves means loving their culture and languages. And then I said, but I'm going to an OHASA conference. What should I tell the delegates? And he said, please tell them that I love them so much for the respect and the everything that they have done to support me. So this is his message to you, ladies and gentlemen, which I hope I have tried to deliver. So as I read the last sentence in my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, if you check Fanon, Frantz Fanon, in black skin, white masks, he concludes the very last paragraph or sentence in his book. He concludes with a prayer, and he says, "Oh, my body, make of me always a man who questions." And then I asked Ndate Khotso, what is your prayer? And he simply said, "Oh, my body, make of me a man who always lives in peace with everyone." What is your prayer? What is your prayer? What is your prayer? Thank you. Can I take this? Can I take this?
No, it's fine. Oh yeah, you can take it.
Is it on the desktop?
No, just thank you so much, Prof. And as compensation for borrowing your pen, I've paid with 2 minutes. So it's a fair trade. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Professor Mushonga, who was presenting under the sub-theme Oral History and Preservation of our Indigenous African Languages. That was a profound presentation. Thank you so much. And with that, my job here is done. Is it not done, Prof? Are we continuing to the next session? Oh, Q&A. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that reminder. I think it's the hunger talking now. So, colleagues, we're now going to open up a round of questions. I think we're going to make it one round for questions. So, for each speaker, please indicate which speaker you are posing the question to. Can I have the IT team circulating the roaming mics for us? Yes, we can raise our hands for those who want to ask questions. I recognize you, Prof. Yes.
Thank you very much. On the issue of Ntate Mushonga, Khotsonkato spoke about how long, but I think it did happen. This show did go some rows. It did go somewhere, because I remember it as a young boy in Ikageng, and I think Gibson Kente followed it up with So Long. Although I've never seen them on stage, I think they happen. I would like my question to go to Ntate Raj. The people of Indian origin, or Afro-Indians, if you'd like to call them, they had under apartheid an advantage they were given by the government, but I think they also got the benefit under colonial power. Of course, Mahatma Gandhi himself wanted the recognition as a member of the colonial British Empire, not to be treated the same way as the Kafirs. I would like to find out in this in your community, if in the stories there were any who told you about that they opposed the Group Areas Act, so that there is racial integration rather than Indian people of Indian origin be treated better than the black people, because we know they always said white, colored, Indians, and blacks. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. My question is to Mr. Raj. I just want to know, what challenges did you face when you were doing the collection of the book project on Roshni? And then to the two ladies, my question to you is that a lot of the farmers are 65 years old. So I didn't hear anything on succession planning, because once you are 65 and above, anytime, so what is the succession planning for because it's a big estate. The land is quite large, and they are carrying lots of money. So what is the succession plan? Yeah, thank you.
Can we have the mic for Prof. Lohati, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me start by appreciating all the presenters. I think they gave very fascinating, powerful, and rich presentations. Let me start with a comment on Dr. Masike Mabelani and Hlamalani Mapoli. I have a comment, something that they should bear in mind. I thought there was a confusion of the literature review and methodology. Remember that literature review is really about looking at what has actually been written in the field and what are the gaps. So when you do literature review, it does not talk to the issue of methodology, of using oral sources and so forth. That is methodology. So methodology and literature review are two separate things. But otherwise, a fascinating presentation on issues of land and how women have actually been empowered. Let's not forget that this success that we see from these women, it's a product of, the post-apartheid regime. Post-1994, there's no way that these women would have actually succeeded under apartheid. Having said that, though, we also have to acknowledge that women, or rather, the land reform in this country is actually going at a snail's pace. And I didn't hear much around that. It almost made an assumption that things are hunky-dory, despite the challenges that are there. Maybe you should complicate the paper even more to actually speak to this element of the slowness of land reform in South Africa and what the challenges really are. I want to come to the presentation by Prof. Mushonga. Another fascinating presentation. However, I have two questions. One is, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me well, how long the drama was an English drama. It was a drama in English. There was this movement, protest or resistance theater, in the 1970s and 80s. Was mainly in English. And the idea was that it's trying to transcend, the divisions created by apartheid, so that if it's produced in English, it can be accessible across the board, across the board, whether you are Xhosa or Zulu or Venda, you'd actually be able to get it. So I was wondering, how do you reconcile his acting in this drama? How long? And then his actual acting, TV acting, which was primarily in indigenous languages, and Sesotho was actually, I think, right at the top of that hierarchy. I didn't hear, that's the next question. I didn't hear you talking much about that quotation that you gave. And maybe I was slumbering, but I thought that you were going to say something. Can you say more about that? And that quotation said, I hate tribalism with all my heart. Finally, my question for Dr. Chamda. I found this project really fascinating. My question really is, where did many of these Indian or Afro-Indians come from in South Africa? You know, were they those Indians that were expelled from the Free State, which banned Indian traders? You know, Indians were not allowed in the Free State, and given where Vereeniging is located, did perhaps many of those Indians actually come from the Free State where they'd actually been expelled, or what? It's a straightforward clarity question. Thank you very much.
Do we have any more questions, engagement, or comments with our presenters? Somebody at your back.
Oh, thank you. I'm interested on the presentation by Dr. Musako, especially on the designs, the concepts, the motifs, the written language that most of us who are here are very illiterate to read. Southern Africa has a language that is written, it's ancient, it's written, and we are wearing it every day, but we don't know what is written there. So I'm very interested in following up in his presentation, and also the sampling that he used in looking at the northern language in terms of the northern hemisphere within the continent. But when I'm looking around here, I'm also seeing Amalapa that looks like Abelapi as a modern literature in that written language. So we have Izangoma, we've got Amakwele, different kind of knowledge practitioners that have adopted certain kind of print, which is not South African, which is not African. No. Who do we know who designs them? So I'm interested in those elements to say, as you are showing us what the Northern Hemisphere has managed to achieve in terms of keeping the tradition, why are we allowing the Southern Hemisphere, in terms of our knowledge system, to allow certain unnamed people to commercially exploit our IKS and within this written language? And the distortion now of the symbolism in this written literature. Thank you. But then there was also another comment from Cape Town. I'm not too sure that Dr. Kuma is around, in terms of, because he was looking at a similar model of documenting the local history and the role of women in a particular space in Cape Town. The leadership provided, and also a local memory, the significance of that local memory. But on overall, Chair, all presentations were beautiful. I enjoyed them. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to sit here and doze in and off, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the questions. I think if there's no more questions, we can now allow the presenters to respond. Who's going to start? No, there are no more questions. Can we get the roaming mics to the presenters to speak? Dr. Maseke, ke omo, this side. Yes,
Thank you for that question, Prof. And in fact, two questions for that matter. The whole idea of how do you reconcile this contradiction in which the play is in English, but he is promoting indigenous African languages? How do you reconcile? Allow me to say, my take would be that English is already indigenous. We already know English because of where we are coming from. And so there is no problem at all in domesticating it and taking it and making it ours. So, because as you rightly said, the idea was to make sure that at least it was understood that it would go far. And as Dr. Nzimane indicated, this play was actually taken to different township communities, and hence the idea of its impact. So I think that's how I would respond to that question. And then to the quotation that I gave there, of course I didn't elaborate, but I had asked him the question, two questions. Tell me about your best moment in life, and tell me about the worst moment in life. So when he was responding to the issue about the worst moment in life, that's where he simply said, I hate tribalism with all my heart. And he went on to say that let me read it. It makes me cry to see infighting among ourselves. Tribalism is terrible. As Africans, as people, there must be unity. So, true to his name, Hotso simply means peace, actually. He simply believes in living together, coexistence, peacefully, and the like, and sharing this planet with everyone. And he then went on to explain to me this whole idea of Soshanguve, which I didn't know that this is actually an abbreviation. Sutu, Shangani, Nguni, and Venda, to dramatize the importance of coexistence. So that's my response. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give to, right.
Thank you. It was in the interest of time that we did not delve into more details. Yes, all our farmers who are over 65 years old, they do have a succession plan, and it must be noted that all these women are first-generation farmers. So for all of them, they are either working with their son or daughters in their farms. They engage their kids so that they can continue with farming, and hoping that government will one day turn this list into ownership. And for our younger ones, they still have small babies, and hopefully the babies, because they are growing in a farm, they will grow in the love of what their mothers are doing. Thank you.
There is Masuku, who has raised a judge, a nurse, and a teacher. They want nothing to do with the farm. In actual fact, as I was thinking of our area of interest, is the area of succession. It will depend on the themes, because we want to focus on women, but because we know very few women are in farming, it might want us to include men, and we will think about it. But then the comment made by Prof. Lekhwati, we appreciate it. We do wish to explain that it was in the interest of reducing the number of slides that we ended up making that mistake, because in our paper we do talk to willing seller, willing buyer. We do mention that as in 2013, 2012, less than 30% of the land that was supposed to be restituted, distributed, and increase the tenure and impact on tenure reform had not happened. So we are also saying the reason why these women are running around grabbing any land, it's simply because these reforms are not intensive and are not transformative. Thanks.
Mr. Chamda?
Yes, thank you very much, Program Director. Thank you for those questions. Let me start with the one about Gandhi, the question that was asked about Gandhi. So I think if you look back at the passive resistance campaign in particular, you'll find this mass mobilization of Indians in the Transvaal leading these acts of protest. What is significant about the passive resistance campaign is that in the resistance, they championed the discrimination against all race groups. And so there was clearly within the movement, within the passive resistance movement, there was clearly a clear idea of non-racialism. And so we saw that coming out. And it became, of course, much stronger with the establishment of the Natal Indian Congress and then the Transvaal Indian Congress. And in my particular research around this community, there was a lot of activism of the Transvaal Indian Congress, which of course was pushing against all discriminatory legislation. So I think that that's the part that we acknowledge. Almost none of those who settled in Roshni had moved there from the Free State. And the logic is that just the timeline is in 1860, the Indians arrive. Most of them are indentured laborers. And then at the end of their indentureship, some of them stay behind. Very few go back to India. Those that stay behind, many of them start facing discriminatory laws in Natal. And to get away from that, some of them decide that they want to come to the Transvaal. So let's look at the timeline. As they start moving away from Natal and they start looking for opportunities in the Transvaal, by the late 1900s, the Free State government had already passed a raft of anti-Indian legislation, which meant that the Free State was simply not an option to go and settle in. If you started a business, there was an anti-trading law that was already passed in the Free State. And then, of course, there was the law that said you could only pass through the Free State. You had to make sure that if you arrived during the day, by sunset, you had to be out. And that made it literally impossible to live in the Free State. And so the families that are in Roshni, most of them are really direct movement from India to Natal, from Natal into the Transvaal, and then some of them came directly into the Transvaal. Thank you, Chair.
I think that's all. Thank you so much, colleagues. You've been a good audience. And for now, Dr. Masako.
I appreciate the question that was asked, and I think they had a comment in it. Yes, indeed, when we look at the Western material utilization, it's so popular. I've elaborated a lot on the Kente. I did fall short to look into the Bogo Lanfini from Mali, which has got a mud color and is popularly known for the brown, amber, and black and white there, which is heavy material, very much woven. And when you look at it, you know already there is a Mali cloth. And then when you look at the DRC one, you do know that there is one which is called the raffia palm. is typically a DRC material. So when it comes to South Africa or the Southern Hemisphere, we do have the popular kanga that is used in Mozambique, and some are used in Zimbabwe, mostly by women in order to carry the babies and children as well. So the South African one is more of touch and live. I think we have passed the generation of our tuition and teaching learning for the young ones. The only one that we can do as oral historians is to document the meaning of the garments and the textiles in order to write for the young ones to understand the meaning. But the tradition of teaching on the production of the loom, and the loom has got what we call a warp and a werft. So those two ones, that tradition is long gone because we live in the AI world. Maybe what the students can do is to document this material and these textiles into knowledge base so that they can be referenced. So that when you see someone wearing a traditional healer wearing a garment which has got a guinea fowl with his, you know that it could be the Botswana. When you see someone wearing a lion in red, you know that it's the Ndau. You associate per color. But you don't know the colors, you don't know the meanings until you write about them. So someone who goes, I'm a traditional leader, they don't just go by. They are instructed by the Gobela to go and buy a particular color and a particular form. Because that very knowledge, you need to craft it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for the engagement with our authors. I always believe the Q&As, much as a student I used to fear them, I now appreciate them because they get to show you where your loopholes are. So I no longer dread the Q&A. I hope Dr. Mabelani and colleague have got an idea on what the next paper should be, a succession plan. You can expand that part and make it big, make it a paper on its own. So with that being said, I would like to invite all the speakers to the podium to accept a token of appreciation from OHASA. It has been a great day, a morning until now, lunchtime. You have enjoyed all your presentation. Thank you. Can I have the paparazzi snap them to make them trend on all the socials, please? TikTok.